Japan just ended the host club industry. Japan's darkest adult industry secret just crashed and burned to the ground. Let's see how it all happened.
But regardless, if you know anything about weird Japanese subcultures or have watched my channel for a while, then you'll know,
a thing or
about
two.
what host clubs are. And if
That's
you don't
right.
know what host clubs are,
Never
they're
been one, though.
essentially these clubs where men and women can walk in and for a fee, they can talk to a bunch of hot, quote-unquote, hosts, these guys who are there to basically...
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's two
drink
types. It's like the host clubs and there's hostess clubs, is like the chicks.
together, exchange conversation, what have you. And I say it's been a pretty prominent part of the quote-unquote Japan's adult industry. You'll see it all the time if you go to places like Shinjuku or Shibuya. And if you've been on my channel before, this channel and my main channel, then you'll know that I've done interviews with, for example, Roland, who is one of the most...
Yeah, I saw that video. You know, it was crazy is that, like, he did kind of come off as, like, a rich, like, jerk, but at the same time, he wasn't that bad, right? Like, surely his industry isn't predatory. Let's keep going.
I highly recommend you check out this video that I did with
proudly
him if
on
you
his
want to get
channel.
a better context on the whole host club thing. But it seems like the meteoric rise and prominence of the host club culture is coming to an end. It is the end of Japanese host clubs.
Not that I wanted it. I'm not saying finally like I wanted it, but just, you know,
an article
it was kind of a weird thing. Like, I think we can all agree it was
host
weird.
club exploitation with tighter regulations.
Yeah, we've low-key known about
revelation. This
is
not a new update
we've
or
known
anything
about
like
this.
that. I was actually turned onto this news when my wife recommended me this video by Asia Analysis with Al and Helen called "The End of Japan's Gigolo Industry Explained." First of all, I didn't know what the fuck gigolo is. I've never
Today's
heard of
the
that
first
term
day I
before,
heard
but
it.
apparently it's a common term used to associate with host clubs. I've always just known it as host clubs. But either way, we're not going to be watching this video here on this video, but I highly recommend you to watch this video if you want full context on what is happening. I'll leave the link down in the description below. But the TLDR of it is that Japan
we
has
should've watched that.
recently gone through and made some pretty big regulation changes on how Japanese host clubs should operate in light of a number of serious allegations and, I guess, exploitation cases that have come out from the host club industry. Now, this article came out around March the 7th, for context. The government approved a bill Friday to tighten regulations on host clubs, aiming to curb abusive practices that force female patrons into prostitution to pay off excessive debts. The bill will now be submitted to Parliament.
Because I know I've heard a lot about, like, guys going to, like, hostess clubs, and actually, you know, I think I have heard of girls going to host clubs and also, like, needing to pay off large debts. I didn't know they went to that extent. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Where it will be debated. The proposal comes as growing reports of such exploitation have drawn public outcry in recent years. Police received 2,776 consultations nationwide related to host clubs last year, with many of these cases involving women coerced into sex work to cover unpaid bills.
Coerced.
The video I mentioned previously actually covers...
It's not like they're just like, I guess this is what I should do to make that money. It's like they're oppressed. It's like, hey, you got to get us that money somehow. Here we got an opportunity for you to make up for right here. It's like that kind of vibe. Yo, that's crazy.
This scam through host clubs that was eventually coerced into doing these like adult industry activities such as prostitution or working at girls' clubs and stuff like that to pay off for their debts that they were owed to pay to their hosts. And
what's going on at girls clubs that it's like an adult industry thing? Like, because I always just thought that they were like relatively innocent in nature. Like, I mean, yes, it's like you pay to talk to girls, but it's not like anything like that. I guess there are all kinds of places.
This very story, or a very similar story, and a famous case over a year ago. Talking about this
bro looks like an IT guy. wait. Actually, we're dressed the same. Nah, he's got the glasses, though. He's got the glasses.
I guess, sugar baby Riri. This girl right here who got sent to a 9-year prison term over a romance scam that was initially started off because she wanted to pay a stupid amount of money to a particular host that she was madly in love with. So
that's right. Yes. I remember.
I'll leave that down in the description below. It's a terrifying yet fascinating story. But either way, yes, this is a very dark point of the host club industry, which unfortunately I couldn't really explore in my documentary with Roland. Obviously, I don't think someone like Roland is going to openly admit on camera to these.
Yeah, obviously when you get like someone that big onto your channel, you're kind of gonna glaze them and put them in a more positive light. It's like when podcasts and whatnot bring on politicians, it's like they're just, oh yes, you're so amazing, you're so great, and like instead of asking them like difficult, tough questions, just because they're such a big guest and they don't want to do them wrong.
Kinds of things happening, but I don't think it's anyone's surprise that this kind of stuff was happening. The Japan adult industry, especially things like host clubs, hostess clubs, soap lands and stuff like that, are usually have this veil of darkness that surrounds them. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And the fact that
it's like it's kind of like don't ask, don't tell. Like no one really talks about it and it just kind of goes on.
So many consultations, over 2,000 consultations rather, just within the past year, I think was a huge wake-up call for the Japanese police and the Japanese government to be like, all right, this is actually getting fucked.
I mean, considering how low crime in Japan is, that number is pretty high. Like for all the things that go on in that country, this is clearly on their radar, like significantly.
Like, come on, we need to step in. We need to do something about that
that's
because it's too much. It's too many. If passed during the current parliamentary
obviously
session,
they're not all going into that kind of sex work and whatnot, but I mean, still.
The revised law would take
they're
effect
just consulting
1 month after promulgation.
Wait. Yeah. It says with many of these cases involving women, of course. Yeah.
Some provisions implemented later. The bill would ban hosts from emotionally manipulating customers into making excessive purchases, a common tactic in the industry. For example, and I'm glad the article is giving us an example here, the law would cover all too common scenarios in which hosts pressure patrons with lines like, if you don't buy me this champagne right now, I'll never talk to you again, which is a crazy fucking line to say to a customer.
That's brutal.
As well as clubs falsely advertising services at an affordable price, but later charging exorbitant fees or providing food and drink that the customers
like those bars in Shinjuku that drug you and charge your car.
Not order and forcing them to pay. Violators of these types of offenses would face administrative penalties, including business suspensions or license revocations. The legislation would also outlaw tactics such as threatening or confusing customers into sex work to pay off unpaid tabs. If you don't know anything about the host clubs, if you haven't gone and checked out the 2 videos that I linked down in the description, then you'll probably be like, what the fuck? How are women falling for this shit? Now, any level-headed person will think to themselves that I'm not going to fall for this kind of stuff.
I mean, I won't fall for it because I'm not going. But I mean, if you're going and you're partaking, then I can see how you get emotionally manipulated,
sure,
like with someone that you are interested in.
Kind of stuff probably thought that to themselves as well. But see, this is where the
it's easy to talk when you're not in this situation.
Clubs, at least some of these host clubs come into play. The whole reason why host clubs, hostess clubs are even a thing in Japan, and something that you don't really see outside.
Like, you ever just been in an argument and you're just like you're talking, you like lose or the argument, or like you just can't really come up with points, and then hours later you're like, ooh, I could have said that and I could have said that and I could have won that argument. It's like that's kind of the same thing that's happening here. If you think that you wouldn't fall for this kind of thing, it's like you can think that you might be able to act a certain way, but the reality is often different.
East Asia, at least to my understanding anyway. If I'm wrong about that, you can let me know down in the comments. It's the idea that these host clubs, these hostess clubs, use this idea of teen loneliness, young people's loneliness, the feeling of prolonged loneliness that young people especially are experiencing, and older people as well, obviously, and fully exploiting that for their own financial profit, which, I don't know about you guys, is probably the worst thing you can do to another human being. Like, let's be real.
It's all over the place these days.
That kind of emotional manipulation and exploitation,
I won't go into it,
one's own gain, is just some of the most disgusting stuff that could possibly happen. And unfortunately, it was happening a lot within these host clubs. So that is completely inexcusable. Obviously, it's not all host clubs, but judging from the fact that the government had to get involved with this kind of stuff, suffice it to say, it was probably a large majority of them that were doing this kind of shit. And, you know, these kinds of statements, after I interviewed Roland and stuff like that, I can definitely see that happening, and I've seen videos of it as well. I mean, this is no surprise that was happening. You would see situations where girls would come into the host club of a particular host who's maybe having a birthday or something, or or really wants them to climb up the ladder of the host club with the most amount of money gained and stuff like that, because that is a metric that is measured and fully advertised out in the open for most of these host clubs, spending stupid amounts of money. We're not talking like hundreds of dollars, we're not talking thousands of dollars, we're talking tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars on a person who is just trying to alleviate your lonerism for a little bit. Isn't that insane? It's the fact that for the majority of the time, these hosts aren't like exchanging sexual favors with this patron. They're not even like being in a romantic relationship with these patrons.
Right.
It's this whole brainwashing technique, almost this kind of emotional manipulation to make it so that this
isn't this just kind of a worse version of like a rent a girlfriend or rent a boyfriend kind of thing? Because instead of being able to take them anywhere and go do stuff, you're just like only in this one bar area where they control the environment and can manipulate you. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying like one is better than the other, but I'm just saying, well, actually I kind of am. At least experience-wise, like, if you're gonna pay for one.
This particular girl, this particular patron, is changing the life of another person who wants to care for them and wants to be by their side. It is literally a scam, in every sense of the word. An emotional scam, a romantic scam, a very elaborate scam as well, to get someone to think that they are important to one person. Host clubs often collaborate with scouts in the sex industry and receive kickbacks from businesses like brothels and adult film studios for introducing women.
What? That's nasty.
Ban. Violators of these scoutbacks could face up to 6 months in prison or fines up to $1 million or both. Now, this is something that I wasn't aware of when it came to the idea of like the sex industry.
Yeah, that's insane. Like that.
I actually found out from, again, the previously mentioned video. I'm not surprised with this new piece of information that I have gained either. But I will say that this ban, or I guess the consequences of 6 months in prison or fines up to $1 million yen is, I don't know, it's a little bit lax in my opinion, especially the fines, because
because the fine just means like if you have enough money, then it's not even a punishment.
I have talked to some pretty high up hosts up there.
They're making a lot more than that.
They have told me how much money they make on a regular basis. And all I'm going to say is $1 million yen for them is like pocket change. It's not even a dent in some of these more successful hosts' wallets. So I legitimately don't know if a fine or even 6 months in prison is going to be something that will be enough to get these people to stop doing it.
Probably still more.
Let's be real, whenever these kinds of legislations come into play, especially in the scouting business, especially in the sex industry, especially in the adult industry in Japan, there's always going to be loopholes. There's always going to be people sneaking money under the table.
That's how it works in Japan.
Making sure that certain vital information is going to be swept under the rug so that there is no evidence left. Like, they have found ways. The fact that they have found a way to even set up this scouting or scoutback system to begin with tells you that there is always going to be a way that will be found no matter what legislations are put on it, unless, of course, the consequences are a lot more extreme. Unless, of course, the consequences are a lot more longer than,
gotta
say,
make it not
6
worth
months
doing.
in prison or a fine of $1 million yen. Penalties for operating host clubs without a license would also be significantly increased, with companies being forced to pay up to 300 million yen, a sharp rise from the current 2 million yen cap. Yeah, see, that kind of sharp rise, I think, is the better way to go. You know, there's a big difference between 2 million yen and 300 million.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I think something like that, where it's like, we're actually serious. If you don't follow this fucking legislation, you will see the consequences.
Yeah,
and these
we're going to ruin you financially.
Massive, big bomboclat consequences of $300 million dues.
What does that mean?
The bill would also tighten licensing requirements, barring companies from operating or obtaining new permits if their parent or group entities had licenses revoked. Businesses under the de facto control of organized crime groups would also be ineligible for licenses. I mean, yeah, that's. I think that's going to be a given, obviously. If a host club is operating under the watchful eye of a Yakuza group, then yeah, they're probably going to get some eyes from the police. Authorities have ramped up crackdowns on host clubs in recent years. Between January 2021 2023 and June 2024,
I see how that helps
related to malicious
it's like connected to the underworld.
203 people apprehended. Right. Hosts accounted for 90 of those arrests, while club managers and other staff made up 64. Cases involving women around 20 years old and hosts have skyrocketed since May 2023, when the COVID-19 restrictions were lifted. During the pandemic, many hosts turned to dating apps and social media to solicit customers while clubs were closed. When someone is broken, hosts slip into the cracks, adding that hosts often manipulate women psychologically, while scouts physically entrap and exploit them. If you've been to Japan before, if you've ever been to any major cities like Shinjuku...
they do like good cop, bad cop a little bit too with the scouts.
Or Shibuya, Harajuku, or even other ones outside of Tokyo, for instance. You will see these guys looking very shady, seeing maybe a group of young women walk past, and then catching up to them and being like, One-san, you're really pretty. Do you want to like make some money from your prettiness? Do you want to be a star? Which most of the time they will advertise it as, you know, oh, I'm a manager at a talent agency or an idol agency, you know, something a little more family friendly, if you will. And then turning around and being like, the moment you sign that paper, just kidding, you're going into the corn industry now. You are going into the adult industry. You're going into the soap lands, the hostess clubs, the stuff that might not be a little as kosher as you thought it might have been. And it's the fact that these motherfuckers are doing it out in the public. Like, literally out in the public. And in places like Shinjuku, for instance, if you go through to, like, say, the Toyoko area, you know, near the giant Godzilla statue in front of the cinemas right there, you will literally see signs, both printed in Japanese and English. And I think as of recently, if my memory serves me correctly, you'll even hear, like, over-the-speaker announcements of the Shinjuku government saying, like, hey, if you see anyone doing scouting work, that shit is actually illegal. And please don't do that shit. And please don't fall for that shit.
So you can, like, report them, potentially. Not that
even then, we've gotten to this point in Japanese society where they're doing it anyway, and women are falling for it anyway. So there is clearly some kind of deep-rooted psychological phenomenon that is happening in Japanese society with young women and young men that are leading them to do this kind of shit. Women counseling and support centers across the country received 415 consultations about hosts from December 2023 through last year, according to the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. Tanaka stated that although he welcomes the bill as a step towards curbing exploitative practices, some clubs may switch business models to bars while maintaining predatory tactics, creating a potential game of cat and mouse. And yeah, I'm actually completely agreeing with this last point here. As I mentioned earlier, they've found a way to slip through the cracks, both psychologically and under the book of the law, to do these kinds of malicious acts. And they're probably just going to keep doing it. They're always going to find a new way to get around the loophole. But what's interesting is that since this article came out, it seems like the bill has actually passed. And now, if you go to places like Shinjuku, if you go to places like Shibuya, where there is an massive abundance of these host clubs, you'll actually start to see that a lot of the big flashy signs that were once littered with, oh, #1 host, oh, this host is, you know, the #1 in Kabukicho,
never picked up
or has made X amount of money, or, you know, is the hottest guy in all of the Japanese lands, or whatever. You know, usually these like over-conflated and sometimes just straight up lies in their marketing have now actually been covered with massive pieces of tape and blacked out and censored like a bad doujin, which I guess is like an admission by these host clubs that, yeah, maybe they were doing some like malicious tactics to make that money that they were so grandiosely marketing towards the public that walked past these host clubs.
And now they don't want the smoke. They don't want the heat.
I just don't know if this is going to like completely stop these malicious acts from happening. As the article
ever completely stop something like this.
I think they're always going to find a way to get around these loopholes, and until there are harsher consequences for this stuff, and I guess some kind of solution for the more deep-rooted psychological issues that a lot of these young women in Japan are facing through loneliness and whatnot.
People in Japan,
I don't think this thing is ever going to stop. This problem is not going to end. So yeah,
no, it's something we call a secular trend, meaning it is something that is increasing over years and years and years, and it's a multitude of factors, and it's not just one thing that's, you know, easy to reverse.
Just wanted to talk about that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about it down in the comments below, and thanks for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to
Alright, I enjoyed the video. Did you? Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!